us or on the recording? Awesome. So this is week 6, our final webinar on April 3rd. So last week we really spent some time digging into how to plan to overcome our obstacles, and you know, kind of some of the, I would say too that we had talked a little bit about you know, the excuses that we can buy into about getting too busy, caught up in life, you know, feeling overwhelmed by our schedule, feeling overwhelmed by the goals that we want to be able to accomplish. And so as important as it was to develop our plan of action, it's been important to develop, you know, a plan for overcoming those obstacles. So, so last week our homework was really about putting together that plan, trying to be able to anticipate obstacles that might come up you know, with your top 5, and starting to, you know, kind of wrap our heads around about the what ifs and then what's. So Daryl, I know that you're the only one that's on with me right now. Did you have any questions about your homework?
No.
Okay. Okay. Good. So, you know, if challenges do come up, I mean, we still have the Facebook community for the next week, so nothing gets taken down until actually the 10th. So you guys will have an opportunity to catch up on the videos, any homework that might be lagging, or also if you guys have any questions. So if over the next week you're like, oh, well, that's an obstacle I didn't think about before, and I'm not sure what the strategy is to be able to overcome that, by all means, shoot me an email, write a post in the Facebook community, and we'll take a look at it and be able to tackle it. And I'll be doing a Q&A again this week as well on Thursday, just to make sure that we're wrapped up. So, so that was kind of homework from last week. Tonight we're going to be talking about being able to increase your motivation and accountability, but we're also going to talk about knowing when to quit. When, you know, you feel like you've exhausted measures with your goals, then what do you do? And we'll also spend some time tonight talking about how to be able to move forward from here. So up until this point of time, we've talked to you about what motivation is, the understanding of how the formation of habits work through habit loops, how to be able to leverage that information so that you can create new healthy habits, understanding that we are a product of our habits and that success really lays in our daily routine. So something that that we're working on every day, the compound effect of creating big momentum to get us to our end goal. And motivation, you know, as fleeting as it is, it comes as a result of being able to achieve some of those tangible results from our goal, or to be able to see progress in our work towards those goals. So when we talk about increasing your motivation, it's knowing what you know now, to really kind of hone in of what are some of the ways that you can increase your own motivation. And I think that this becomes kind of an individual plan, and something that I would just make a note in your journal, or you know, kind of where you've been keeping your top 5. We've talked in previous sessions before about put them on Post-it notes, stuff that you know is going to work. So I've given you examples about how I know that there's great ways for me to be able to change my motivation pretty fast. Is I've got a specific list or playlist that I run with. So it's songs that I know are tempo to my pace goals to keep me on time, but in general, it's probably just really pumped up music to make sure that that I'm active and energetic and focused in my run. Um, Other ways of, and this, I guess, includes of ways that you can change your emotional state. We talked about being able to switch gears. So, when we do live workshops, it's, maybe it's getting up and doing something energetic so that it switches modes. Gives our brains a chance to refuel with some endorphin release, just with the change of activity. So even if you did like 10 jumping jacks before you had to go and do an admin task that you weren't really looking forward to, but it needs to get done in order for you to be able to accomplish what you want to be able to accomplish. So different ways of kind of changing some of those states. But like I said, to make a list of reference for yourself so that you know exactly, like, when I start to lose focus, I'm going to do XYZ. When I start to feel unmotivated or no longer emotionally attached to my goal, I'm going to do XYZ to get back on track. And it's also knowing what you know now. What are some of the ways that you increase your accountability? So some of us are able to have better self-discipline when we've got dates, time, or timelines to be able to meet. So it might be listing some of those deadlines when it comes to breaking down the steps of your goal. So for instance, if your goal is to save, $100 by April 30th, and you break that down to what your daily goal is, it might be checking your bank account every day at 5 o'clock to make sure that you're on track for your spending, if that's what you can do for self-discipline. Some goals, especially if they're goals that have been on your list before, that that you struggle more with that self-accountability, we've talked about the importance of taking accountability partners. So once again, that they're not your spouses, they're not your best friends, there's somebody that is going to be able to be strong enough for you to be able to hold you accountable. So I talk to a lot of my clients about you go to a power greater than yourself. So somebody that knows more about this goal, somebody that maybe has already accomplished this goal, somebody that knows kind of the discipline or the structure and the accountability that it's going to take in order to be able to accomplish it. So I got different accountability partners for different goals. And sometimes even you can use Facebook as a great accountability tool too. So I'm part of Christopher's Healthy Transformations. So I'm able to check in with the Healthy Transformations group on Facebook. I make commitments to some of my friends that are also runners about, I needed to get my 11 kilometers done yesterday. It was snowing in this freak spring snowstorm. So, I committed to get it done regardless of the weather, and then did a post afterwards to say I was able to follow through and accomplish that. So just some of the different ways. And once again, to be able to take the opportunity to put this in your books or a place to remind you. Thanks, Daryl. To put this in a way to remind you of, these are the ways that I can hold myself accountable. These are the ways that I can ask for help with my accountability, or it might even be signs and symptoms that I'm not mastering that self-discipline and that I'm going to need to reach out to somebody that has more experience or has achieved results with this to help me out, right? So I've shared with you along the way when I quit smoking that it was about asking Kyle and Christopher for more help, knowing that they had overcome some unhealthy habits themselves in their lives and have been able to have traction with this. They also both don't smoke. So, Kyle and I attended an event this weekend, the Sober Takeover, where I was speaking, and it was funny. In order to get into the place that we needed to, there had to have been like a good 20 people outside smoking. And it didn't even bother me, right? My focus was where it needed to be. My focus was on the event. It was on about being able to share what the committee had asked me to share on, and really about serving the community. So I'm very clear on on my why when it comes to my quitting smoking, and that helps direct my focus. So I can, I showed myself this weekend that I can be in an environment where there's smoking and not partake in the behavior. It just doesn't affect me on that level anymore. So now it's also, I think the other thing that comes up is when we start to experience and we talked about this last week as one of our ways of overcoming obstacles is to let the disappointment drive you. And so I think it's important to acknowledge disappointment, but make sure that it's not going into a negative belief system, or I call it a case of the screw it's, right? Of screw this, it's not working, so I'm not doing it, right? But I think it's about being able to push through that. And if you're struggling to push through the negative emotions or some of those limiting beliefs, or maybe it's old stories that are replaying that really aren't holding any purpose, and in fact, they're not getting you any closer to your goals, they're just getting you that much further away. I really want to be able to encourage you to reach out. Christopher Lawrence works with people on motivation and their career strategy or career development. Kyle Kalu works on leadership and executive coaching, along with the business planning and the strategic coaching there for successful businesses. And then I coach on the family and relationships. And so if you find that I end up getting stuck in kind of this cycle of going back to disappointment and then it creating or recreating some of those self-limiting thoughts, behaviors, or habits that we've talked about, reach out. Don't stay there, right? Don't settle for less because you're stuck, right? Ask for some help to be able to get out of that way of thinking. So I just want you all to kind of just take a minute here, and I want you just to make a note to yourself. And this note, if you can do it on your email, is even better, or do it on a piece of paper and then transfer it to email later. So you're going to basically write yourself an email reminder in 3 months. So, dear Carrie, I hope that, you've had a successful, I will have run, a couple of my races. I hope you've done well. I hope that you're still focused and that you're really gearing up towards your full marathon in October. That you've been able to expand and be of service to the community when it comes to your coaching practice, that I've been able to do some more public speaking, that my online courses are doing well, and that they're filled with attendance. So you want to write yourself an email, something with a reminder in 3 months' time that you're going to be able to see the progress. And that if you're not on track, that you'll be able to remind yourself on how to get back on track. So where do you want to be with your number one in 3 months? What will it feel like in 3 months' time? Will you feel proud of your progress, right? Will you feel like you've accomplished? Will you feel like you've been getting results? And what are you committed to do to feel proud and like you're progressing? So just take a moment here. I'll give you just a minute or two to be able to jot down some notes. And then you're going to send it to me. So kwebster@changemylifecoaching.ca. And I'll keep them in confidence. So don't worry about me sharing them. Because what I want to do is I want to be able to send them to you in 3 months. So I'll just give you a minute right now to be able to do that. So we've done this exercise before. Usually in the live sessions, it's postcards that we do, but a little bit more challenging to make sure that you all had postcards when some of you are across the country or across an ocean. So this was really it's kind of neat when I went through, I think the first workshop that I sat in of Christopher's was Learn to Love Any Job or Know When to Quit. And we did the postcard exercise and committing to a goal focus around my career. And it was neat to get the postcard in the mail 3 months later and to see how progressive my thinking had been from the day that I took the workshop to 3 months later, and really how my focus and concentrating on that plan of action really got me the results that I was desiring. So the neat exercise. Okay, so once again, after you're done kind of that note to yourself, you're going to send it to me, kwebster at changemylifecoaching.ca, and I'm going to return it to you in 3 months. So it'll be awesome to hear your updates and your progress reports in 3 months' time. Okay, so know when it's time to quit a goal. So first things first, though, we want to be able to we want to be able to exhaust the measures before we quit, right? Especially you want to be mindful of this if you're somebody that tends to give up. So I at times can be a bit of a perfectionist, and so when I can't do something perfectly, then I don't want to do it. I think the first time I played tennis, because I sucked, I decided that I was never going to play tennis again, right? So sometimes it's really about being stubborn about the goal. We've talked about being flexible with the plan, but it's also being, highly self-aware and being honest with yourself about how the goal is really progressing. And I would adjust some more before quitting. So whether that's adjusting the plan, adjusting the approach, maybe it's going to that accountability partner and getting some feedback of have I just outstretched myself? Is there another way that I could approach this? Have I bitten off more than I can chew? Is there another way that I can rephrase this to make it more manageable, more bite-sized, right? To take it more piecemeal so that I can be successful in this. Make sure that you're incorporating your why, right? So before you quit, I would go back to what we did. I really think that was in week 2, week 3, really. And when we started to be able to set our top 5 and bottom 20 and really start with that the 4-question template when doing our action plans, to ask why did you start it in the first place? What's the emotional connection to it? And are you going to be okay quitting on that emotional connection? And sometimes the answer is yes, and that's okay, but it's kind of another gate checkpoint of, is it time, or is it just that I need to look at this from another approach? I think we also have to remember, and we talked about this before, about the pain versus reward. Sometimes working on your goals isn't all fluffy and motivating and feeling like you want to do cartwheels. There are certain parts of my goals, and even in the plan of actions, that are kind of requirements. If I want to be able to accomplish that goal, I'm going to have to do it, that I'm not really overly excited about, and it's not really a task that puts me in my peak state of performance. So for me, I love my social interactions, the things that get me, even with my speaking engagement goals, things that get me talking to people out in the community, seeing where I can be of service, being able to share my experience, strength, and hope with others. It helps me fulfill some of my life purpose, the reason why I do a lot of the things that I do. But that's not all. That's not all I'm going to be doing when I'm working on my goal to be able to do more public speaking events. So some of it is the admin stuff. Some of it's the cold calling. And Christy had talked about that on one of the calls, doing the cold calling, even though I don't really like it. It's a way and part of the action plan for me to be able to achieve my goal. It's some of the admin stuff in order to make money in what I do. I'm going to have to do some invoicing, and I can't stand the invoicing, but unfortunately it's the only way to be able to make the money. So it's kind of those things So to have this false expectation, or this expectation that every day when I'm going to figure out my goal, that I'm going to be overly excited or thrilled with every single thing on that action plan it's just totally unrealistic. So sometimes it takes a whole lot of hard work, and it sucks, but you do it anyways because you know you want it and you know want the result. So really, when it comes down to it, we need to really think of that it's time to quit our goals when it no longer makes sense. So when it no longer matches your values and beliefs. And so I'm trying to think of a good example. It might be about, and I guess that this would apply to me. I've always, eaten really clean food, practiced the Whole30. I was a Beachbody coach. So, I think at that point in time I had given up a lot of dairies. So I only drink almond milk. It's a good source of protein. But I've always had really good kind of balance control with my meals. So I thought, right? So my goal was to eat clean and eat whole foods. And when I was introduced to more research and more understanding of nutrition when it comes to sugar and what sugar was doing, and that basically sugar was undoing all of the hard work that I was doing around the Whole30 eating that I was eating and some of the clean foods that I was eating, I had to be able to change what that goal was, right? Of really eating more on purpose. So it was about fueling my body for what it needs, and eliminating, foods or processed foods or sugars that my body doesn't need. So kind of a weak example of a time to be able to quit a goal when it comes to not being in line with your values and beliefs. But I think it's just that you've got to, once again, practice that self-awareness and be able to ask yourself if it's something that's just so not in line anymore, that maybe it's time to be able to give that up. I think it's also when you realize that you actually don't even want it. You're not really willing to do it either. So there's been a couple of times that goals have come off my list because of this. I would say that the first time through that top 5, and when I went through my bottom 20 and added some more goals in there, but when I kind of did that binary exercise to determine my next top 5, some of them I was like, I don't even understand how this ended up on my first list. Some of them I had already accomplished as a byproduct of working on my original top 5. And some of it was like I have just evolved in my thinking, and I've grown in my emotional intelligence, and so some of it just seemed petty to me, and so I didn't really want to have it on my list anymore. So, but I think that there's another couple of them that I've just decided are no longer important. So if I don't find that they're important and I can't get emotionally attached about them, then what are they doing on the list? And I think I shared with you guys when we did the top 5, bottom 20, that, Warren Buffett would say that your bottom 20 go in the garbage because they weren't important enough to make it onto the top 5. They're not important enough to be on your goal list in the beginning. So, I think that there are times if you're seeing that you actually don't want the goal, don't suffer through it. Practice the self-awareness, practice the self-honesty, but then maybe it's time to be able to quit that. And I think too, I just saw a little note in reference to this one from Christopher too, is that be careful if you're somebody that can tend to give up too easily, right? I'm making sure that this isn't an excuse just to bail on it. It's time to quit when it's destroying you. And what I mean by destroying you is that it's not even meeting your basic human needs. So if your goal is to be able to start a company and you start down the road of business and you've invested your life savings in it and you know, you're spending all of this money on setup and product design and manufacturing of that product. And the competition is being funded by, you know, a large corporate entity, and you're just not able to capture yourself, and you're just pouring all of your money into this to the point that you're not going to be able to feed your family or keep your lights on or pay the house payment. Maybe it's time to quit. And I think that there's a difference between quitting, like never going to happen again, or it's for right now. And that's okay too, to be able to adjust the timing on those goals of that, you know, I thought right now was the right time, but it doesn't seem to be panning that out. So right now I'm just going to pause on this goal. So it might not be quit, it might be pause. But if this is not meeting if you can't meet your basic human needs, or it's totally getting in the way of your responsibilities, then you might need to be able to consider quitting the goal. So that might be even the case of if you get laid off and your goal is that you're going to change careers altogether. That might not be the case right here, right now in the moment. If you've got other financial responsibilities or commitments to uphold, like you might have children, you might not be able to do a full, complete career change. You might need to take a stopgap that's going to allow you the time to explore what other career options or your career change options are in the meantime. And definitely I'm going to also encourage you here, and we talk a little bit in if you guys have attended Change My Life coaching workshops before, you know that we always talk about, is there a time to quit? And we talk about this in this week's live workshop that we're doing on Mastering Difficult Conversations, that we don't quit when it comes to when it comes to our responsibilities to our family or to our kids, obviously. So if your goal is starting to get in the way of you meeting the requirements or your responsibilities to your children, they really should get it before anything else. So it might be time to consider to quit. And then, like I said, I can't reemphasize either that sometimes it's not a quit. Sometimes it's a reschedule. Sometimes it's just hitting the pause button to be able to regroup. You know, I went through this last year. I had some running goals, and I hyperextended my hip flexor, and it put me on injury, and so I had to take a pause. I needed to be able to rebuild that muscle, and I needed to be able to let the healing take place. Continuing to run was just going to be not a very smart idea for me. And it's even, you know, I pay particular attention to this when it comes to limitations, when it comes to my body when I'm training for marathons or extended long runs, that I need to make sure. I just muted Michelle there. That I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to my body, so that so sometimes my training schedule needs to be paused too, so that I can recoup. Alrighty. So just before we go on, I mean, that is a lot of the theory. So we had talked about you know, how to be able to work through our goal kind of creation of our goal list. Like I said at the very beginning of this, talked about behaviors, habit loops, understanding how to leverage habit loops. We talked about how to be able to look at our goals to get really focused and drill down to our top 5 priorities. We've talked about, you know, how to be able to plan by going through those 4 questions of what's the end result? What do you really desire? What's the outcome that you're looking for? What's the emotional attachment? We've talked about motivation being an emotion. We've talked about habits being part of our actions, our daily routines, and really the summary of who we are. We've talked about obstacles, a whole lot of different types of obstacles when it comes to time and resources, when it comes to maybe it's other people, and even, a little bit today about what happens if the obstacle is us and our stinking way of thinking, or thinking of negativity, and when to be able to reach out for help. We talked about accountability. We've talked about mastering self-discipline. And now we've really talked about when, what do you need to consider if you're thinking about quitting a goal. So I want to be able to put this out, and now that we still only have a couple of people on the call tonight, but are there unique situations or any type of questions that you guys have from what we've covered in over the last 6 weeks? Is there questions that are still coming up for you? And by all means, if you're watching the recording of this later and there's questions, like I said, we're going to do a Q&A on Thursday, as per usual. All of the videos and content will be up until Monday, April 10th. So you still have another week to be able to catch up on videos, do homework assignments if you're lagging in any of them. And by all means, if you have questions about this, to be able to reach out and ask. I'm just going to check chat here. Okay. So yeah, by all means, Daryl, if you've got questions, I'll be in the Q&A. Thursday's going to be a tricky day because that's when I run my workshop. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to jump on the Q&A over the lunch hour on Thursday. So somewhere between 12 and 1. So, Michelle, do you have any questions?
No, not right off the bat, Carrie. I'm still working on everything. Okay. Can we start the whole program over again? Just kidding.
You know what? So just to let you know that it brings up a good point, because I think the first time that I went through this, I was like, oops, what have I done here? The first time that I went through this, I got a lot out of it. And then the second time, it's kind of like I heard a whole bunch of other stuff that I hadn't heard before. And then when I was writing the curriculum with Christopher, then there was like a whole other new thing that came out of it, right? So I am going to run another online program for Get Motivated, Get Focused, starting on June 5th. So it'll be the same kind of structure. There'll probably be different examples. I'll probably have some more kind of tidbits in there. But same kind of structure, but we are going to do it again. Same price point, starting June 5th. Then it's also the Mastering Difficult Conversations too, for anybody that was really struggling with those obstacles of how to set boundaries, how to be able to say no, how to be able to, have challenging conversations with people that become the obstacles for us achieving the results that we want to be able to achieve. I am doing a Mastering Difficult Conversations online as well, and that's going to start on April 24th. So I had offered that as a gift for the pricing of $80 last week, and I'll continue to honor that pricing until April 10th for this group. So when I shut everything down. So if there is questions that come up, by all means, like let's say it's April 12th and Michelle, you're like, oh, I should have asked this. You guys know my email, so send me an email. And of course we can have that conversation. Good. Any other questions before I move on? Awesome. Okay.
That was really good, thanks.
I'm sorry?
It was very helpful.
Oh, well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you guys have been able to get some value out of this and just maybe expand on thinking, right? It's fascinating to me that I never learned how to do goals until I joined my corporate career, right? It wasn't something that was taught in high school. So, you know, my stepdaughter is going to graduate in June. And we've been going through goal setting like this with her, right? Because I think it's just such a big transition from high school to university, and to be able to stay focused. But I know taking a look at goals this way has totally changed the way that I approach goals, and changed how invested I am in goal setting too. So, so I'm glad that I've been able to help you guys out and to be able to facilitate this. But I feel like I've learned just as much in the last 6 weeks. It's good refreshers for me too, of things that I need to consider on my own journey. So I just want you to spend some time in the next week really asking like yourself, like, so now what? So you've got goals, you've got plans of action, you've got some tools. Some of them might be new, some of them might be something that you're used to, but to really ask yourself, like, you know, did you get what you wanted from this course? What will you do differently from what you've learned here? What did you learn about yourself? You know, did you learn some different accountability or different motivating or different focus tools? What did you learn about your goals? So some of you experienced that when you did at your top 5, that, you know, your top 5 were pretty much in line with the way that you thought that they were going to, especially for analytical thinkers. I find that analytical thinkers, they're able to come up with their top 5 much easier. For some of us that are creative, and I'm not saying analytical people aren't creative, don't get me wrong, but some of us that are more creative spirit-wise or free-flowing, or like I don't have very strong analytics in me. That takes discipline for me to be able to sit down and actually analyze information. But you know, is there other ways that I've learned about my goals? Absolutely. I think that originally what I thought was going to be on my top 5 wasn't on my top 5. What I thought mattered in my first 25 goals, like I shared to you today, didn't end up mattering. And it's interesting that I've gained more confidence in what I'm able to accomplish. And for really the first time in probably my entire life, that I used to tell myself, I'm never going to be able to do that, or I'm just not going to be able to accomplish that, or, you know, that's going to be really challenging and really hard given my history or whatever. And really understanding now that I can accomplish whatever I put my mind to, right? If I get the focus and I put my head around it, I can get it done. So, so I would ask you, if you find that yourself, that you're reflecting and you feel like you've gotten value out of our last 6 weeks together, and that you've learned some really valuable tools, you know, or if you know, and you find yourself saying that, you've got family and friends that also struggle with this, just like I shared about, my stepdaughter. If you found that yourself saying, like, I really need to show this way of goal approach, or how to be able to get motivated and get focused, to my spouse, my friends, my coworkers, my colleagues, my network groups, please know that we appreciate all of your referrals. And so if you can think of 1 or 2 people that could really benefit from this program, specifically they get motivated, get focused, I'm going to ask over the next week that you write down those 1 or 2 people's names, and please help us connect to them. So reach out to them, today or tomorrow. I would probably say no later than the end of the week, and help them connect to us. Like I said, of doing the next online Get Motivated, Get Focused on June 5th, and for the same price point. I'm going to send out through email by the end of the week just a bit of a feedback survey. So any feedback anything that we could have done differently, anything that we could have done better, whether that's the tools and resources that we used, even if it's the Zoom call feature that we used, the Facebook group, or anything like that. I'm going to ask that you fill out the survey. That would be great. And Elspeth just joined us as well. I got another hi.
Hi.
And okay, so Daryl's just asking what the price is again on, oops, I keep doing that, on the price point on the Get Motivated, Get Focused, I think is what you're talking about, Daryl. So that then online Get Motivated, Get Focused, that's starting on June 5th. That one is $97 plus the taxes and admin for Eventbrite. So I'll give you that link, but I'll put it in the Facebook group as well. So that is Better Motivation Online 2, as in the number 2, .eventbrite.ca. And that link is active, Daryl, so the pricing's right there. So it's $97. The Mastering Difficult Conversations, that's starting online on April 24th. That one is a special event pricing for you guys at $80, regularly $125, I believe. I have to look this up now because now I don't know what the regular price is. I think it's $125, and that you guys were offered it, which I'll keep that offer open to you guys for until April 10th at the price point of $80. So I'm just looking this up here just quickly so that I make sure I'm giving you the right information. Yeah, so it's $125 regularly. So if you have people or yourself that want to or people besides yourself, sorry, that you wanted to be able to refer, obviously I'll give you a preferred referral partner rate too for the Mastering Difficult Conversations online. So feel free to give me an email or let me know of a connection that you have there. Okay, so like I was saying, I'm going to send you some, Elspeth, we've gone through some of the theory. So some of the theory you missed, we're just kind of wrapping up. But I'm going to send you out a feedback survey because feedback's a valuable tool. I want to make sure that people get value out of this and that they feel like there's a strong point. That includes the Zoom feature as well. If you have feedback or other tool suggestions, that would be great. So I'll send that out to you by email by the end of the week. And then I'm also going to ask too, if you found that you had value, whether you're able to refer future participants or not, I'd ask that you be able to capture your feedback for me in a Google review as well, because that helps us be able to bring workshops like this, other workshops like this, to a larger audience all the time. And that's part of our goals at Change My Life Coaching, is that we want to be able to create impact in people's lives and reach as many people as possible. So send that by email, and I'll also put it on the Facebook group. Are there any questions before I wrap up? Anybody have anything? I sure appreciate all of your participation. I got a lot of emails this week with some great feedback in it, and I sure appreciate it. It's nice when we are facilitating to have lots of group participation and people willing to share, so that that really helps us out too. So I've appreciated the feedback and the questions and the sharing so far. And thank you, Daryl. I appreciate that. So thanks, Elspeth. I appreciate that too. So, so like I said, regular Q&A on Thursday in between my break at Mastering Difficult Conversations. So you might have a guest appearance or two, or participants that are attending that might show up on there as well. Who knows? It'll be a surprise. But I'll be around in the Facebook community for the rest of the week. I'll make sure that this recording gets up right away, and I look forward to connecting with you guys. So keep working hard on the goals, keep adjusting through the plans, all of the videos, all of the links, all of the exercises available until April 10th. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.